When I was 12, my mom had just started trusting me enough to stay home alone. It was a big deal for me. We lived in a quiet, safe little town, the kind of place where neighbors know each other, the streets are calm, and walking alone at night didn't feel dangerous. That peaceful atmosphere was probably why my parents felt okay leaving me by myself at such a young age. In fact, I still live with them in the same house to this day. That night, something happened that changed everything. I remember hearing loud banging on the front door. Then a man's voice followed. "Wait, please. I need help." He had seen me. That meant he was looking straight through the glass at the top of the door. I turned to look, and even though it was dark outside, I could make out the shape of a man's head. I couldn't see his eyes, but I could feel them. He was staring right at me. Terrified, I bolted upstairs and into my parents' room. It was the only place with a phone upstairs, and I didn't know my dad's number by heart back then. So I dialed my mom's cell. She answered, probably a little tipsy from wine. I could hear it in her voice. But the second I told her there was a man at the door asking to come in, her tone changed completely. She became sharp, alarmed. She immediately asked if I had spoken to the man or if he knew I was home. I told her the truth, yes. I asked who he was. Her concern deepened. She asked if anyone might know I was alone. That's when I remembered the pizza guy. He had casually asked if I was by myself when he delivered my food. While we were still on the phone, the doorbell rang 2 more times. I panicked and told her the man wouldn't leave. She told me to stay in their room, lock the door, and keep the lights off. She said she was calling the police using my dad's phone while keeping me on the line. My parents stepped outside the restaurant they were at so they could speak more clearly with the dispatcher. It was a warm summer night, and we had left the windows cracked open for airflow. Through the open window in my parents' room, I suddenly heard the side gate creak open, the one that leads to the backyard. The sound was quiet, like someone was trying not to be heard. I told my mom what I heard. She kept repeating, "Stay quiet. Stay in the room. Don't move. Don't turn on the lights." In a whisper I asked, "What if he tries to come in through the den window?" She told me to stop talking, stay hidden, and wait for the police. She continued giving me updates, her voice tense but trying to keep me calm. Just when I started to feel the tiniest bit safer, I heard it, footsteps. Inside the house. Someone was downstairs, walking around. I whispered what I heard to my mom. She must have screamed something into the other phone to the police, probably something like, "He's inside! Hurry!" She told me to get under the bed and stay there. For 12-year-old me, it felt like something out of a nightmare. My only sense of protection was a flimsy lock on my parents' bedroom door. Then I heard the intruder coming up the stairs. Our bedrooms are down the hall, so I could hear as the footsteps moved around, likely checking each room. My mom kept whispering that the police were on their way, telling me not to make a sound. Eventually, the footsteps reached the door to the room I was hiding in. The knob jiggled. He tried turning it, more than once, as if hoping it would magically open. Then there was a soft knock. No words, just silence. Then another try at the doorknob. Still locked. A moment later, the footsteps moved away, down the hallway, down the stairs, and then faded into the house. I didn't dare say a word. I didn't cry, I didn't breathe too loud. I just lay there under the bed, completely frozen. Then my mom whispered, "The police are there, don't move yet." I waited, expecting them to break the door down. But instead, I heard heavy footsteps and a loud voice calling my name, someone identifying themselves as a police officer. They came up the stairs, and my mom told me it was okay to answer the door. There were 2 officers upstairs and 2 more downstairs. They hadn't needed to force the front door open, the back door had been left wide open. And the sliding window in the back was also opened, that's how he got in. I had to talk to the police and tell them everything, including how the pizza guy asked if I was home alone. My parents were still on the phone, listening to every word. By the time they got home, only 2 officers remained. A report was filed. The police said they'd follow up and investigate. I live in a really small town, where everyone knows everyone. You'd think that would make it a safe place, right? I used to think so too, until one night changed that for me forever. I was 17 at the time and home alone. My parents were out at a dinner party, and I had the house to myself for the evening. It was late, around 11 p.m., when I heard a knock at the front door. I figured it might be a neighbor or someone who needed help, so I walked over and peeked out the window. There was a man standing there. He looked completely normal, mid-30s, clean-shaven, wearing jeans and a hoodie. But what he said chilled me. He spoke softly. "Please, I need help, my car broke down, can I use your phone?" Something about his tone felt off. He wasn't panicked or desperate, just weirdly calm. I told him through the door that I couldn't help, and that he should try the gas station a few blocks down. He didn't respond, just stood there, staring. After a few seconds, he said again, "Please. Just for a minute. I need to call someone." I backed away from the door and didn't reply. That's when he started knocking harder, then pounding. I ran to the kitchen to grab my phone and call my dad, but he didn't pick up. I called my mom next and thank God, she answered right away. I told her what was happening, and she immediately told me to lock all the doors and stay away from the windows. She said she was calling the police. As I was on the phone, I heard our backyard gate creak open. I froze. I whispered to my mom, "He's in the backyard." She told me to go to my room, lock the door, and hide. I did exactly that. I turned off all the lights, locked my door, and got into the closet. I could still hear my mom talking on the phone with the police on speaker. My heart was racing. Then I heard a loud thud. He had tried to open the back door. It was locked. A few seconds later, the sound of tapping came from the window in the living room. He was checking every possible way to get in. Then I heard the unmistakable sound of a window sliding open. He had found the one we always forgot to lock, the one in the laundry room. I covered my mouth and held my breath. I could hear him walking around downstairs. Every creak of the floorboards made me want to scream. I whispered to my mom again. "He's inside the house." I heard her panic and start yelling at the police to hurry. I stayed hidden, completely still. Then, the footsteps started coming upstairs. I held my breath as they passed my bedroom, paused, then came back. He tried the handle. Locked. Then he knocked. Softly. Once. Twice. Then silence. I thought he had gone, but I didn't move. I just waited. After what felt like forever, I heard louder footsteps, multiple sets. Then a man's voice called my name, identifying himself as a police officer. I carefully opened the door, and there were 2 officers in the hallway and more downstairs. They told me it was safe now. The back window was wide open. He had definitely come in through there, and had left through the same way when he couldn't get into my room. The cops took my statement, and I told them everything, including the man's strange behavior and what he said. They promised to investigate, especially since there had been a few other strange reports recently. My parents got home shortly after, shaken but relieved. And ever since that night, we never forget to lock every window. I used to live in an apartment complex with a long, narrow hallway. Each apartment had its own entrance, spaced out evenly down the corridor. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up thirsty and got out of bed to grab a glass of water. My bedroom faced the hallway, and when I stepped out, I noticed something strange. Through the peephole, I saw a man just standing in the hallway. He wasn't moving. He wasn't knocking on doors. just standing there. He was dressed in dark clothes, his face partially hidden in the shadows. It didn't seem like he lived on our floor. I'd never seen him before. At first, I thought maybe he was locked out or drunk. But after 10 minutes, I came back to check again, and he hadn't moved an inch. Same position. Same posture. Just staring straight ahead at nothing. A bit freaked out, I turned off all the lights and kept watching silently through the peephole. Then, suddenly, he slowly turned his head and looked directly at my door, as if he could see me watching. I stumbled back in fear. I waited for any sound, footsteps, knocking, even breathing, but there was only silence. After several minutes, I got the courage to look again. The hallway was empty. The next morning, I asked the building security if they saw anything strange on the cameras. They told me, "There's no camera on your hallway. That one's been broken for weeks."